Welcome back to the program. Let's start it with the very first story. The Volta River Authority, VRA, has offered to provide competitively priced power to local industries. This is to help ease the cost of operations as the Continental Free Trade Agreement kickstarts in 2020. The AGI, in its second quarter business barometer report, cited the cost of power as a key driver to the collapse of many local manufacturing industries. He was speaking at the Ghana Industrial Summit and Exhibition. Charles Aite reports.
The 2019 AGI Industrial Summit and Exhibition has kicked off here at the Accra International Conference Center. We've heard several business leaders and, of course, stakeholders talk about specific issues that really hamper business growth and, of course, ignites them to being competitive on the world of business and industrialization. The Minister for Trade and Industry, Alan Tremantin, charged all industries across the country to take advantage of ready opportunities in Ghana and abroad as the Continental Free Trade Agreement kicks in.
The type of incentives that you offer to local industries also determine how competitive they will be. And we have a host of incentives, whether for 1D, 1F or GIPC. Some of you can't even memorize the incentives. How would you take advantage of it? Like the GIPC, you don't know. Some of you are sitting here, you don't know. You can bring in equipment, machinery, duty-free. Because you are not focusing on what you need to focus on.
Also speaking about the cost of power, well, the Chief Executive of the VRA has made it quite clear to Joy Business that the cost of power will be priced competitively to ease the burden on businesses across the country.
What I essentially mean is that power delivered from a combination of the most, the cheapest source. So it can't be just a single number, but it's got to be a range of numbers because you deliver a bit from hydro, which is cheap, a little bit of power from thermal, which is slightly more expensive, but you optimize it in a way that it's competitive.
So how then do you respond to concerns by most businesses when they say the cost of power is so high? The recent business barometer report cited power as one of the main concerns for local businesses. I
think that it's a whole chain. You know, it starts from generation, it goes to transmission, it goes to distribution. We take care of the generation part. We are very competitive at that end. The transmission, I think, is also competitive. It's the distribution where there's a little bit of a challenge. So that's why the delivery of power to the consumer at the end point appears to be high. But I think that once we do the trimming of the costs and the improvement of the efficiencies in the distribution sector along the entire chain, I think we'll get to competitive power.
We have here with us the Director for Business Development Services at the AGI, the person of Johnson Opoku-Boateng, to help us understand the days ahead, what businesses should be expecting as we kickstart today. So it has been a very interesting start. We've heard from stakeholders and industry players. What should we be expecting the days ahead?
Tomorrow we are going to be looking at financing for competitiveness. So we are going to be having the Deputy Governor, the first Deputy Governor of the Bank of Ghana, who is going to be here, Dr. Maxwell Opoku-Afari, who is going to be here to talk to us about the ecosystem. And we know what the cleanup that has happened in the financial system. So how are industry players going to take advantage of the cleanup to actually grow? Beyond that, we're going to be looking at the 1D, 1F. So we are expecting the Deputy Minister for Trade and Industry, Ahunkalinse, to come and discuss with us where we've journeyed so far from and where are we regarding the 1D, 1F. Beyond that, on the third day, and then tomorrow in the afternoon, you know, we have a lot of women who are leading businesses, and so the AGI is launching the Women in Business. Okay, and so that's going to happen in the afternoon. We are very, very grateful to the First Lady, Rebecca Akufo-Addo, for accepting to be there, to be the special guest of honor. On the third day, we're going to have a discussion on energy. And you can see that we are going to launch an energy service center, a partnership between AGI and GIZ. And then in the afternoon, fantastic program on pitch. We have a pitch competition for tertiary students and young entrepreneurs. Okay. And the prize is the first prize is $5,000 US. So we have Sight and Life and the McGill University who are supporting the AGI to make this competition a success.
Very interesting. Thank you very much, sir, for your time there. So you did hear that for yourself. We're having 50 businesses around here exhibit their products and services, as well as a B2B session, as was rightly stated. We're going to be giving you updates as and when we do have them.
Let's now turn our attention to the financial sector and get some developments from the third edition of the Joy Business Financial Services Forum, which ended a while ago at the Labadi Beach Hotel. Former Chief Executive Officer of the defunct UT Bank, Prince Kofi Amoabeng, has accused the Bank of Ghana as being behind the collapse of UT Bank. UT, with Capital Banks, had their licenses revoked in August 2017. But Mr. Amoabeng, who was speaking at the third edition of the Business Financial Services Forum, disclosed that the central bank went behind it to reject an investor days before it decided to revoke its license. He questions the processes of how his bank and others were closed down.
In UT's case, about a month to UT's closure, we had a meeting with the Bank of Ghana, and we were promised that with that, the investor we brought, within a few weeks, they're going to evaluate it and then get back to us so we have an EGM to inform our shareholders. And we're a listed company. Now, 1 week to the 14th of August, when UT was surrogated, a letter was written by Bank of Ghana to our investor that they didn't like the investment. We were not even copied, but that investor was our investor. Then you look at the way UT was arrogated. It didn't need policemen at dawn 6 a.m. as if it's a rolling school. And then GCB staff and the press at 6 a.m. to close the bank, and then go and destroy the signages as if it's some satanic shrine. Now, why I'm saying that is that that is not how banks are closed down, and there must be a process. And I love it. I mean, I'm not saying UT should be kept at all cost. If UT wasn't doing well, and the government decides that for whatever reason it will close it down as the process requires. Now we have issues where other banks were closed down under different circumstances. Then you don't know, depending on who is giving the instructions. And I tell you, the governor that I met, that is Dr. Addison, is a decent gentleman, and he has merit. I'm sure he's a good governor. So how come he can act anyhow? In other words, the political parties that we have, and it's everywhere in Africa, they interfere with the appointment of the people. Either they will appoint somebody who hasn't got the merit, or you appoint somebody who has a merit but who pull the strings. So this cleanup, which is not complete, as my friend here said, is going to come back again because the powers that be will go around proper corporate governance and regulators, because they put them there and they will still pull the strings.
But in a sharp rebuttal, the Bank of Ghana has rejected this assertion that it deliberately closed local banks down. Head of Banking Supervision of the Central Bank, Osei Jesse, dismissed the claims, stating that the regulator engaged all collapsed banks on several occasions before arriving at the current situation, insisting that that was a due process followed.
Let me put on record that the regulator did not collapse these banks. I want to say that the directors and the shareholders of these two banks collapsed the banks. All the regulator did was that hand over my license to me. You see, when a bank finds itself in such a situation and the regulator delays in taking action, the implication is that the bank will be accumulating more losses and liabilities for the taxpayer. Because what it means is that the bank will continue to mobilize deposits.
We sincerely apologize for the low sound on that story. We'll bring you back the story later on in the bulletin. But still at the Joy Business Financial Services Forum, corporate governance consultant and lawyer Marian Bano pointed out that one sure way to prevent the crisis from happening again is to ensure that not only men and women of integrity are appointed to boards, but also strong and independent-minded individuals who cannot be controlled by shareholders.
Talking about the shareholders, we are talking about the directors, we are talking about management, we are talking about the internal auditor and the external auditor, we are talking about the company secretary, and we are talking about the regulator. Now, if you look at this structure, the most important pillar is the board of directors, because the shareholder sometimes is the culprit. The shareholder has self-interest, but it is the board of directors who hold the balance. But then the question is, how strong are they? How strong is the board? That is why corporate governance today is talking about independence in the boardroom. Independent-minded people who are strong enough and are able to check the shareholder who owns the business.
On his part, financial service consultant Dr. Richmond Etuahene called for strict enforcement and compliance by the regulator.
So my only worry is about enforcement and compliance. The whole issue that we have at stake at the moment is poor enforcement and lack of compliance. If you look at the first, the Banking Act 674, 2004, all these things were there. Corporate governance was there. The BSDI, the 2016, is only elaborating it. The laws were very good. And I think in this country, what is killing us and will continue to kill us until we begin to talk about enforcement, compliance, and sanctions. You see, the sanctions that we sanction them to penal point. I mean, I remember HSBC, when they flooded the AML rules in America. Sorry to say, they were fined over $600 million. The Federal Reserve say that, pay or get out. And they have to pay. But if you're charging people peanuts and they are making good money, they will flout it and pay. So apart from that, Bank of Ghana has issued fantastic things. If I want to read to you too many of them, if they will stick to it and ensure everybody is compliant, then they never again, even if you come there, it will not be as huge as the 20. Now they are quoting $3 billion to $4 billion. That's what the Minister of Finance said. Yeah.
Well, so the Director General of the Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC, Reverend Daniel Ubami Tete, also had his turn. He is calling for closer collaboration within the regulators of all the financial institutions.
So one entity has a leg in this space, maybe an BOJ and an SEC and so on and so forth, and then taking advantage of regulatory arbitrage, and against the backdrop that there could have been better coordination or sharing of information among the regulators, because I think that didn't really go well in the past, and I think that we are looking at how to forge a greater cooperation, sharing of information. So because if we take, let's say, the fund managers that I license, you find that they would have been doing deals or placing money with Bank of Ghana regulated institution. So once there's a problem, let's say a bank going down or a savings and loans going down, and a fund manager has exposure there, it has that kind of effect. So the interconnectedness, the emergence of financial conglomerates, and then the fact that the regulators could have done better in terms of coordination, sharing of information, I would put that as contributory factors in addition to the previous one stated why we are where we are. But I think that we can look forward to ensuring that all the different actors play their part in ensuring that we avoid a recurrence of such a massive cleanup. I believe that there would always be issues, but I think that if there's commitments across board, we should see a better, more robust, stronger financial sector.
We'll bring you more developments from the Joy Business Financial Services Forum in our subsequent bulletins. Let's still stay within the financial sector because rural banks in Ghana are more resilient and strong enough to withstand shocks that hit savings and loans banks and microfinance companies in the ongoing sector reforms. That's according to Chief Executive of Atwima Kwangoma Rural Bank, Safo Kantanka. He says rural banks are better positioned to deal with any external shocks that may arise as a result of the ongoing financial sector reforms. His comments come as the Bank of Ghana asks rural banks facing liquidity challenges to seek strategic partnerships to avoid actions against them by the central bank. My colleague Ohimin Teria has more in this report.
Of Ghana announced in June this year, rural banks are next after microfinance and microcredit institutions in its banking sector reforms. At least, there are 144 registered rural and community banks in the country as at the end of January. The banking sector reform has already seen licenses of 385 microfinance companies as well as 23 savings and loans banks revoked. Mr. Safo Kantanka alleges the fears of customers since rural banks are structurally and operationally sound to meet Bank of Ghana's regulatory scrutiny.
Yes, these banking reforms and what is happening to the savings and loans companies, I think those who are very close to the rural banks will get to know that our ownership structure is quite different from the savings and loans companies. This is a bank that is owned by the community. And therefore, Bank of Ghana knows that where we are and the people we are serving, the vacuum that we are filling is such that Bank of Ghana cannot just come and say we are closing the rural banks. Because there are some areas, if you don't have the rural bank, salary workers will find it very difficult to get their salary. They will have to travel longer distances. Again, we have been able to put measures in place such that, what happened to the savings and loans companies cannot happen in a rural bank. It cannot happen in a rural bank because we've come a long way. 43 years rural banking in Ghana is a long way. Even though we've gone through some checkered history, we think that for now we are resilient, we are very strong, and we'll be able to meet whatever demands that our customers put in place. So our customers should set their heart at peace. We are quite different. We are quite unique in the provision of services to clients.
Achimakwa Angoma Rural Bank, which was established 36 years ago, is a member of Ghana's Club 100 elite business entities. Often considered a pace setter in rural banking, it presently operates 9 branches in the Ashanti region with a capital adequacy ratio of more than 45%. Officials of the bank have been interacting with customers on the occasion of its anniversary. Mr. Safo Kantanka explains the bank and other players in the sub-sector are adequately prepared for the financial sector reforms.
We have a very good performing loan rating. In fact, honestly speaking, I can confidently tell you that our recovery rate is about 96%. It's about 96%. Why 96%? We've been able to sharpen the skills of our credit officers, and they give a lot of training also to our customers. We have a lot of discussions, and we normally come into a mutual agreement before loan terms are set. We do the loan terms that will be of mutual benefit to both the customer and the bank. And this has been our secret. Where a customer even goes through problems, we sit down with the customer.
From Kumasi for JoyNews, Ohimin Teria reporting.
Now, Ghana is leading a sub-regional dialogue on sharing its submarine cable network with its neighbors Burkina Faso, Togo and Côte d'Ivoire. This follows some understanding between these countries for a seamless approach to improve internet connectivity within the West African sub-region. Minister of Communications Esther Owusu-Ekufo disclosed this to Joy Business in an interview. Here's Ebenezer Sabute's report.
Internet infrastructure sharing has been recommended as one of the surest ways to reduce the cost of communication within the West African sub-region. According to Minister of Communications Ursula Owusu-Ekufo, talks are still ongoing between Ghana and its neighboring states to make use of the available submarine cables to enhance the quality of data for its citizens.
We also need to promote infrastructure sharing. And so, as I indicated, we're linking our fiber network to Burkina Faso and to Togo and to Côte d'Ivoire once the conversations are concluded. And then we can share excess capacity. We have 5 submarine cables landing on our shores. And so our landlocked neighbors can also use us as a transit point for their data. And we hope that that would also drive down the cost of communications within the region.
The minister believes a secure data center is also needed for the continent to help reduce cost of data and help with the smooth implementation of a continental free market area.
The traffic exchanges which are located outside the continent. So for a simple packet going between, say, Ghana and Nigeria, or even sometimes within the countries, it has to go to Europe, before it is transmitted. Many of the telecoms companies have a single traffic exchange located outside the continent where they bulk transmit their messages. We have to set up a traffic exchange on the continent for our information. It will also ensure that we keep the data generated from our devices on the continent, and it will reduce the cost of transmitting data to and fro, voice and data communications to and fro, and ultimately those savings will be passed on to the subscriber.
She expressed confidence that Ghana is ready to take advantage of all aspects of the agreement. Ebenezer Sabute's report for Joy Business.
And that'll be it for the marketplace this afternoon, but do make a date on Business Live for more sights and sounds from Joy Business's Financial Services Forum this evening. My name is Emmanuel Abuaji.